Hi, this is Jason Kramer again with Twin Cities Home Buyers, and today I'm answering the question, how do you sell your home as is? So a lot of times people want to sell their house to an investor. One of the main benefits of selling to an investor is not having to make the repairs. And so typically how we do that is we will actually sign an additional addendum on the contract that removes the liability from the homeowner for the condition of the property. It's called an as-is addendum. And we'll sign that, and basically we're assuming the responsibility for the condition of the property. And a lot of times people either haven't lived in the house for like an inherited property, or they haven't spent the money to make the repairs. And this is a great way for people to sell the property without investing time and energy into making the repairs and that type of thing. And so another benefit to selling a house as is the liability. So a lot of times people have concerns about defects in the property. If there was something like a mold issue, or sometimes asbestos we get a lot of, where people they don't want to do the abatement for the asbestos and that type of thing. And we're able to buy those properties and not have the sellers be liable for them. Once in a while we'll get inherited properties, and in that case, sometimes the owners haven't even lived in the property, so they're not able to do a disclosure on the property. In the state of Minnesota, with a seller disclosure, if both parties are willing, we allow the sellers to check what's called a waiver box. And so there isn't that long disclosure requirement. And that comes in handy if somebody hasn't really lived in the property. They don't want to make misrepresentations about the condition of the property. So that's another layer of protection for the homeowner, of being able to sell it as is without making repairs and not have that liability because they haven't lived in the property. And so what we found is a lot of times those are key benefits for people to sell as to an investor, and we do that on every contract that we buy. Every house that we buy, we have that as part of our agreement, is to be able to sell the property to us as is, and we assume the responsibility of doing that. One other thing in a lot of municipalities is there is what's called a TISH, a truth and sale of housing, or point of sale, sometimes they call it, that type of thing. And so that is a municipal requirement for the seller to have the house inspected, sometimes by a city inspector or sometimes by an independent inspector. And usually what we'll do with that situation is we will actually pay to have that inspection done. If we can, we'll use our inspector that we've got a long-term, multi-decade relationship with. And so if the city comes out with any repairs that are required prior to the seller being able to sell, we actually will assume the responsibility for those repairs and sign what's called an assumption agreement at closing. And so that's another level of protection there for the homeowner, and make the transaction as easy as possible, not having to worry about the truth and sale of housing, not having to worry about the city coming in and flagging the property with a bunch of repairs, just to know that if there are any repairs that the city finds, that we would be willing to assume the responsibility and not have that fall on the seller. In addition to that, of course, we're paying for the inspection and signing that addendum, that assumption agreement at the closing as well. So if you have any questions about this or any other topic, we'd be happy to talk to you about that. We do offer an in-home free, no obligation consultation about the house in particular, and kind of what we would offer and how that would look. If this topic, if you've got any other questions about this topic, or you have another topic that maybe you have questions about, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'd be happy to either answer them then, or maybe even do another video about it. You can reach me on my main phone number, which is 763-560-0077, 763-560-0077, or my email, jason@easyhomeoffer.com. That's spelled out EASYHOMEOFFER.com. I'd be happy to help you out. I hope you have a great day. Thanks.